My sister invaded the house I paid for without asking. My parents backed her and shamed me for refusing to help. When they refused to leave, I dialed 911, and that's when everything changed. Hey everyone, I'm Camden. I'm 30 and living solo in a cozy little house in the suburbs of Mountain View. Every morning, I kick back on my front porch with my coffee, soaking in the bird songs and gentle breezes. These are the chill moments I really value, especially after breaking free from my toxic family over a year ago. It's been a whole year without those guilt-tripping calls, crazy demands, and feeling like I can't measure up. Who knew setting boundaries could bring so much peace? One weekend morning, around 8 a.m., while I was still brewing my coffee, the doorbell just wouldn't quit. Looking at the security monitor, I saw my parents, sister, and nephew at my doorstep. At first, I didn't want to answer, but they kept ringing every couple of minutes. After about 15 minutes of this, I opened the door, knowing they'd keep coming back if I didn't confront them. My dad wasted no time, hitting me with, "You're going to leave us standing outside like this?" I knew if I didn't let them in, it would turn into a scene in front of the neighbors, so I begrudgingly let them in. Then my sister, Melody, went back to the car, returning with 2 huge suitcases. I was puzzled and asked if she was heading on a trip. Ignoring me, she just dragged them inside and exclaimed with a beaming smile, "This house is perfect for us." I was dumbfounded and asked her what she meant, reminding her it was my house. That's when my dad chimed in, saying I should share my space with my sister because she's a single mom. I felt a mix of surprise and anger, realizing why they showed up. Trying to keep cool, I told them, "Sorry, but I can't let Melody and her kid move in. I need my own space." My dad lost it, pounding the table, demanding I let them stay. Not wanting a drawn-out argument, I firmly told them if their agenda was to make Melody move in, they needed to leave. They stared at me like I was speaking another language, and then the unexpected happened. My little nephew Cairo, just 4 years old, hugged me and said, "Uncle Camden, please let me stay." I knew he didn't come up with that on his own, he's too young. So I gently asked him if he wanted to stay or if someone told him to say that. He admitted his mom and grandparents put him up to it. Seeing my family using Cairo hurt, and I couldn't hold back my anger any longer. I told them they had to leave before I called the police. My dad scoffed, daring me to do it, thinking the cops wouldn't make them leave. But I did call, and soon enough, police were at my door. I explained the whole saga to them, showing I legally owned the place. Despite my family trying to argue they had a right to stay, the cops made it clear they had to go or face trespassing charges. Reluctantly, they started packing up. My mom and sister tried to guilt-trip me with tears, but I stood firm. As they left, my dad spat out, "You're going to regret this, Camden." But honestly, I think I made the right call. Man, I knew right then that things between me and my family were done for. Once they left, I was just standing there, alone in my house, feeling like my legs might give out from all the emotions swirling around. It was weird, this emptiness hit me, but there was also this strange sense of relief creeping in. I wandered into the kitchen, made myself another cup of hot coffee, and plopped down in the living room. Holding that cup, feeling the warmth in my fingers, I tried to make sense of everything. I realized calling the police wasn't just some spur-of-the-moment, angry move. Nah, it was like a shout-out to my own self-respect, like finally setting boundaries I should have drawn ages ago, even if I knew my family would never get it. As I sipped my coffee, I started to calm down and all these memories just washed over me. I thought about all those years, playing second fiddle to my sister, dealing with my parents' clear favoritism, and holding back my anger just to keep the fake peace. My mind drifted back to when I was a kid and I always had to let my sister have her way, even though she was only 2 years younger. One memory hit me hard. I was 6, and I got this awesome little blue bike for my birthday. I loved it to bits. But just 3 days in, my sister threw a tantrum, wanting it for herself. My mom, without missing a beat, says, "You're the older brother, you need to share. It's her bike now." I was gutted, cried my eyes out, but no one seemed to care. Even as a 6-year-old, I felt this deep sense of injustice. Fast forward to when I was 12, won first place in the school science competition, and got a microscope set as a prize. I was over the moon, but a week later, my sister broke it without even asking to use it. I rushed to my parents, upset, but got shut down with, "You're the big brother, learn to share," from my dad. Again, I was left on my own to cry it out in my room. Then when I was 16, I worked all summer at a bakery to save up for a laptop. I finally bought it, super proud. But when my sister's computer broke, my parents told me to share. I was like, no way, I worked hard for this. But my dad just said, "There's no yours or hers in this house." Everything is shared. That was a wake-up call. I knew I had to break away from this cycle someday. When I got into college with a partial scholarship at 18, instead of celebrating, my family just compared me to the neighbor's kid who got a full scholarship. My dad even said, "You didn't try hard enough." That killed my joy, but it also made me decide to move out and live on my own. Despite my parents trying to stop me by saying I should stay to save money and help out, I stuck to my decision. Their last shot was telling me if I moved out, I was on my own financially. It hurt knowing they'd ditch me like that, but I was determined. I took out loans and worked part-time all through college, and true to their word, they didn't give me a dime or check in on me. Still, I went home for holidays, not really wanting to but to avoid more friction. My relatives would ask otherwise, and my parents couldn't handle the embarrassment. After college, I landed a job right away, which was awesome. But once I had a steady income, my parents started making demands again. During one family dinner, my mom gave me this hopeful look and said, "Your sister needs a new laptop for school, can you chip in $500? Before I could respond, my dad chimed in with, "She's your sister, you should help her." I had to remind them that they never helped me financially during school. It was frustrating, but I didn't outright refuse. I'd help with smaller amounts like $100 to $300, reminding them about my student loans. They'd grumble but take it anyway. I thought it'd be just a few hundred here and there, but things kept getting worse in the family. The first big blow came 5 years ago when my sister, at 23, decided to marry after getting pregnant, throwing us all for a loop. So, my sister decided to throw this huge wedding instead of just dealing with her boyfriend privately. A month before the wedding, my dad calls me with this super serious tone, telling me to come home ASAP. As soon as I walk in the door, before I even have a chance to sit down, he hits me with, "Your sister's getting married soon and I want you to chip in $20,000 for the reception." I was like, what? No way could I afford to drop that kind of cash on someone else's wedding. I said no right away. My mom looked at me all angry and disappointed, saying I was selfish because my sister needed help and I had the money. I kept my cool and told them, "This isn't my wedding. If Melody can't afford it, she should scale it down. I can only give $4,000, take it or leave it." The room went quiet, and finally, my dad, not looking too happy, agreed to my offer, so they had to cut down the guest list. At the wedding, I could feel everyone judging me, but I knew that if I gave $20,000 now, they'd expect even more next time. Fast forward a couple of years, and my sister's back home with a divorce. My parents call me over again, and the moment I walk in, my dad says, "Your sister's back with her son. We need you to support her with $1,000 every month." I flat out refused, saying Melody's 26, she needs to take responsibility for herself. My mom looked at me like she couldn't believe how heartless I was. Even though her words stung, I still quietly sent my sister some cash every month, a couple of hundred here, a few hundred there, but I made it clear that if they tried to pressure me, I'd stop altogether. Then comes the house buying drama. I'd saved up some cash from living frugally and got lucky with some stocks, so I planned to buy a house without telling the family to avoid their interference. But then Melody saw me grabbing coffee with Clarissa, who's apparently her friend and also my real estate agent. Melody immediately guessed I was house hunting and, of course, told my parents. The next thing I know, my dad's getting me to come over to discuss my house buying plans. He hits me with, "We think you should get a place big enough so your sister and nephew can live with you." I was like, "Nope, this house is for me." My mom jumped in, saying I was selfish and needed to help Melody out. Even with all their pressure, I stood my ground. Melody tried to guilt trip me with tears and talks about her son, Cairo, but I just couldn't let them walk all over me. In the weeks that followed, I dodged their calls and kept my house hunting mission low-key. About 2 months later, I bought a cozy little 2-bedroom place in the suburbs, about a half hour from my parents. It's the perfect spot for me, not too big, not too far, and totally mine. Signing those papers was a rush, it felt like I was finally stepping into my own life. When Clarissa handed me those keys, I was a little smug. It's not every day someone under 30 buys a house, right? But I knew I still had a long way to go to achieve true financial freedom. That first night, as I settled in, listening to the creaks and hums of my new space, I felt a calm I hadn't experienced in years. But in my excitement, I totally forgot to tell Clarissa to keep my new address hush-hush, which might turn into a story for another day. So, here's the deal. Something that seemed super minor in the beginning totally spiraled into chaos. Just as I thought, a few days after I bought a new house, Clarissa spilled the beans to my sister. The news spread like wildfire to my parents. They called me immediately, and my dad, fuming, was like, "You bought a house without telling us? What, you think you're better than us now that you've got money?" I just said, "Hey, I found a house that fits me and my budget. It's my cash, my choice. You can get a house too, just sell yours." Dad was having none of it and shouted, "Don't preach to me, you jerk." After that, I just hung up rather than get into a shouting match. I figured they'd let it go, but nope. A month later, they showed up trying to move in without even asking. I had to call the cops to get them out of there. And that's when the rumors started. My parents went around telling everyone I'd kicked them out. A couple of days later, my buddy Marcus called, all worried, and asked, "Dude, your mom said you kicked the family out of the house? Is that true?" I was shocked, and I told Marcus, "Nah, man. They tried to take over my place." Marcus was skeptical though and mentioned my mom saying I wouldn't help my sister or them financially. That really ticked me off because it wasn't true at all. My family was fine financially, they just wanted my house for my sister. Marcus didn't know what to believe, which hurt. Soon, relatives started calling, ready to lay into me about family duty and all. My Aunt Miranda and Uncle Robert both called, mad as hell, and lectured me about abandoning family traditions and all that. It was frustrating, and I just defended myself, saying it's my life to live. Then, some relatives even showed up at my door. Uncle Tom and Aunt Lisa came by, all serious, to try and set me straight. I told them I wasn't interested in discussing this and asked them to leave. When Aunt Lisa got all huffy about respect, I calmly said if they didn't respect my space I'd have to call the cops again. They left, but not without a parting shot about how the family would cut me off. It was stressful, but I stood my ground. I realized I had to protect my space and freedom, even if it meant distancing myself from family. A whole year passed, and I pretty much went solo. No family gatherings, no picking up the phone when they called with complaints. I kept my bond with my nephew, Cairo, though. Every month I'd pick him up to hang out. The first time I showed up after the whole drama, my sister was surprised but let Cairo come with me. He was thrilled, asking where we were going. I said, "We're getting ice cream, and there's a surprise." His excitement was infectious, and those moments with Cairo were pure joy. Despite the distance from the family, I made sure he knew he was still loved. One time, after dropping him off, he asked, "Uncle Camden, how come you never come inside or have dinner with us?" That question stung. I gently told him that sometimes adults don't see eye to eye, but I'd always be there for him. And that's just how it went. Yeah, some things just can't be fixed right away, but that doesn't mean your uncle doesn't love you. Cairo seemed to get it. He nodded and said, "Oh, like when Tommy and I didn't talk for a week after arguing over a video game." I laughed at his innocent take on things, and with a warm smile, I hugged him and said, "Exactly, just like that." Even though I had lost touch with my family, having Cairo around made me happy. The distance between me and my parents, and between me and Melody, seemed permanent, until a month ago. Melody surprised me that day when I went to pick up my nephew. I noticed she looked different, not with her usual icy stare, but with a mix of hesitation and worry. Then, out of the blue, she asked, "Camden, can we talk after you bring Cairo back?" Her question caught me off guard, but I agreed. After dropping Cairo off, Melody and I went to get coffee. As soon as our drinks arrived, she blurted out, "Camden, I want to apologize for everything." I was stunned. I never thought my sister, who our parents always backed, would own up to her mistakes. She went on, "I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I realized I was too dependent on our parents and you. I wasn't taking charge of my life and was blaming you for my problems." She paused, and I didn't know what to say, so I just listened. Her voice shook as she continued, "Thanks for always loving and caring for my son, even when you broke ties with us. It means the world to both of us." Her sincerity warmed my heart, and I smiled, saying, "Cairo is an amazing kid." I didn't want our issues to affect my feelings for him. Melody smiled back, a smile I hadn't seen in ages. Then, a bit nervously, she said, "Camden, I have a proposal. I don't expect you to say yes right away, but I hope you'll think about it." Curious, I asked, "What's the proposal?" She explained, "I want to borrow $3,000 from you, interest-free. I promise to pay it back in a year. I want to start a food and drink takeout stand at home. I've crunched the numbers, and I think it's doable." I was surprised and a bit skeptical. My family has a track record of asking for money with no intention of paying it back, but Melody seemed different this time. After mulling it over, I agreed with one condition. I'd only give her the money when she was buying supplies for the stand to make sure it was used for the right reason. She agreed instantly, saying, "That's fair. Thanks, Camden." After our chat, I felt a flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, we could fix our relationship over time. Something shifted inside me, like a spring bringing new life. A week ago, I swung by her stand on opening day, and I was blown away. Melody had really put in the effort. The stand was small but cozy, and she already had some regulars. She greeted me with a big smile. "Camden, you're here." I couldn't hold back my joy and pride. I was thrilled to see my sister finally becoming self-reliant and mature. Watching her serve customers with energy and professionalism was surreal. She was a different person from the sister I used to know, who always leaned on others. Once the customers cleared out, she turned to me with a grateful smile and whispered, "Thanks, Camden. I couldn't have done this without you." I just smiled and nodded. We both knew a new chapter had begun. Reflecting on the past year, I feel no anger or need for revenge. I've decided to live life on my terms, set necessary boundaries, and love in my way. I keep my distance from my parents but have started to rebuild things with Melody, based on mutual respect. Most importantly, I'll always cherish my nephew as I see fit. Every morning, sitting on the porch with my coffee and looking at my little garden, I feel a deep peace. I've learned that boundaries aren't meant to isolate us, they're like protective fences so we can live healthily and sustainably. Maybe one day, if my parents respect my boundaries, we'll reconnect. Until then, I'll keep living in the peace I've found and loving those who truly deserve it. And that's my story. But before I wrap up, I'd love to hear from you guys. Was I wrong to set boundaries and ask my parents to leave my house? Or call the police when things got out of hand? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to subscribe, turn on notifications, and like and share. Catch you in the next story.